Sometimes, parents' expectations can push us to the limit. Children can find it difficult to tell their parents that their expectations may be unrealistic, and some would rather murder than disappoint their parents. Okay, let's go. Jennifer Penn was born in Markham, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, Canada.
On June 17th, 1986. Geminis, I tell ya.
She was born my year.
She's born your bloody
She was
year.
born my year, wasn't she?
But she's a bloody Gemini.
Yeah, not a fan, but that's okay. Yeah, look, Geminis are very hit and miss, aren't they?
Very hit and miss.
Yeah.
Her parents were named Bic and Han, originally from Vietnam. Her parents were classed as very strict and wanted to see their children succeed no matter what. Jennifer had a brother named Felix who was born in 1989. Her parents pushed her to succeed in extracurricular activities as well as academically. She started to learn the piano at age 4 and even took up figure skating a little bit later on. 4 years old playing the piano? That's like my little one playing the piano right now. No, that would
With
not
his
happen.
head, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you would think it would be funny.
Or his butt.
Yeah, blup, blup, blup.
Yeah. She was said to be highly talented.
That's sorry. Back into reality.
She was said to be highly talented and was expected to
To pee.
to pee.
She was expected to pee.
She was said to be highly talented and was expected to compete in the Winter Olympics.
Get the fuck out of here. Do you know how talented you have to be to actually even get the chance to compete at the Olympics?
Figure skating? Hard as fuck. Did you know, fun fact, I'm going to take you on this wild ride, dear mung beans. I wanted to attempt figure skating when I was younger because I liked rollerblading. And then when I was young, I was like, oh, I'm a bit too round. I wasn't fat, but I was just like, I'm not stick thin to...
And what does someone do in that disposition? Ice hockey. Yeah.
And I fucking loved it. It was great.
I wish you'd actually get back into that. I would watch your games. I would come and watch your games.
I've been thinking about it for a long time. I need to get fit first
You
and
should
then I'll...
bloody do it. I
think I
will
will.
be your number one supporter.
I wanted to do it in my 20s. Now I'm in my 30s. I think I want to get back into it because I fucking loved it.
Yeah, do it.
And then we can go to Canada and play some hockey.
Oh, Canada.
Anyway, I digress. I'm sorry, dear mum bees. There you go. Jennifer would later state that her parents wanted her to enter medicine. Doctor, maybe. It's always a doctor or a surgeon or something like that. But we do find out that that was not her dream to follow at all. She wanted to be a piano teacher in the evenings and during the day work as a lab tech. Even to me, I was like, lab tech? Okay. Like, that's still pretty... Oh, I just want to play a piano and do a lab tech. Okay, that's fine. Like, what's wrong with that? She then would say that her parents always compared her to others, like classmates, and wished she would have been more like that person. She said that was all that she ever heard her whole life. Can you imagine that? I wish you were more like them.
No, all I ever heard my whole life was, come home when the sun goes down.
I didn't get it from my parents, but I used to get your sister's hot. What happened to you?
Do you know what? Yeah, about my brothers. Because my brothers at school used to be popular. Yeah. And I wasn't. I was
Remember
not
what
the
I said
popular
to you?
one.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, I'm used to it though, so it's not
Yeah.
even... I didn't think that in my 30s I'd have my best friend saying it. But I was
Hey,
like...
I told you that when we went to the family event.
I know. I remember.
And I'm letting you relive that now.
You are. And forever for our listeners too, because I don't know how much of this you'll keep in there. But I was always the not so cool brother. However, I would still be able to date girls and popular girls because of the fact that I was related to them.
Yeah, I always used to get, oh, your so-and-so's little sister. Oh, your so-and-so. Shut the fuck up.
That's when you turn around and you go, no, she's my sister.
Yeah.
Suck my ass.
Eat my ass. Her parents would not allow her to have a boyfriend, let alone attend everyday high school things such as school dances. And after the tragic event, we find out that she was in a hidden relationship for roughly 8 years.
8 years?
8 years.
Well, I'll be.
Can you imagine hiding something like that from your parents, who are strict, for 8 years? That would fucking eat you up inside.
I came out as gay when I was 18, so I know, I know what it's...
Oh, honey, I know about that.
I know what it's like to hold something aside. Difference is, like...
Mama wasn't strict.
Mum did not care
I
at
love your
all.
mum. Yeah.
She did not give a single shit.
Mama Voodoo, I love you. Oh,
She
Mama
loves you
Voodoo.
too. Well, she could be
Let's
our
call her
mascot too,
that.
can't
yeah,
she?
Mama Voodoo. I love her.
She also sounds like a voodoo priestess now. Mama Voodoo.
Mama Voodoo. Her parents found out and were unhappy that he was of mixed race. In one of her many interviews, Jennifer would state something that caught my eye. She said her boyfriend filled this void in her. No, not with his dick in her vagina.
I was gonna say, yeah, her pussy.
With his dick.
With his dick.
But she always felt that a part of her was missing. But that's a very much seek therapy vibe. You need to work through that or bad things happen. FYI, dear mung beans, it is time to heal if someone is
Heal.
filling that void.
Heal. That's right. You cannot be a complete person until you are a full you. It's true.
But like putting that on someone else, they filled this void in me. Oh, honey, no, no, no.
But also, can I just point out that codependency is not cute?
No.
It is not cute. Until I find like a husband that I really love and he's just really
Yeah.
dependent because he just loves me and just wants to spend all the time with
I
me.
love
Then
you.
I think I'll be okay with it. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's gross.
Yeah, it's not good. I no longer teach at Wine Time University. I'm that lady on the street with a little box standing on yelling my opinions. Thank you.
Karen?
Yeah, should get a Karen cut. Karen cut. So this secret relationship would turn into Jennifer living with her drug dealing boyfriend.
He's a drug dealer?
Yeah. And he lived at home, so it
He
was
was
with,
dealing drugs from his house.
I don't know.
Look.
But yeah.
Inquisitive minds have got to know. What was he pushing?
I don't know, I didn't look into that. I probably should have.
I mean,
But yes, this was all while she was at school. She would then go on to purchase a fake diploma to show off to her parents because she dropped out of high school. And she also faked an acceptance letter into a university to study pharmacology. She is creating a fake life because she doesn't want to be cut off from her family. Detectives discovered that her parents gave her an ultimatum when she was 24. You can stay with us, go to school, and not see Daniel, or you can be cut off from us financially and live with Daniel, and you're never allowed to return home.
so she went, all right, I'll fake my life. At 24, you shouldn't be living at home anyway.
And your parents should not have that much control over you at 24.
No, because that's such a toxic environment.
And my understanding is it was mainly because he was mixed race. They wouldn't have known about the drugs. Apparently, they wanted to meet him and they met him, and then all of a sudden they were just like, no. So I don't know if it was purely just from mixed race. We find out that her mum drives a Lexus and her dad drives a Mercedes. So do with that as you will. She would be caught out in her relationship lie in 2010 when she told her parents that she was staying at a friend's house.
Yeah, my boyfriend.
Well, her parents did the old trick that mine did to me. She calls said friend in the middle of the night asking to speak to Jennifer. Of course, her friend was half asleep and forgot, and bam, bitch, you caught out.
That's right. Was that when Mum drove to the house at the party you're at?
Yes, that was that night. Babs was on a roll in my childhood.
She was on to you,
Oh,
bitch.
I was a fucking bitch of a child as well. So, sorry, Mum. Love you.
Love you, babes.
So, we have a bit of a backstory around Jennifer and her parents. So, let us jump to the day that has made her a part of our true crime podcast that you should share with your friends, like and follow, and do all of the things on all of the
Yeah, and I was also wondering where this was going because I was like, why are we doing a thing on her? Is she a victim or is
Yeah.
she a perpetrator?
Who's this bitch? Just you wait, sunshine. Just you.
Duly noted. I'm waiting.
On Monday, the 8th of November, 2010. So remember, she got caught out in her relationship in 2010.
That's right, she did. Yeah.
At 11:05 p.m., a neighbour's surveillance footage would show three figures entering the Pan's household and would be seen running from the house about 18 minutes later. A call to 911 would be made shortly after.
Where are you, ma'am? Please just hold on. I don't remember my parents are. Ma'am, calm down. What? Some people broke into our house. Okay, to show us all his money. Okay, ma'am, ma'am, where are you? What? Avenue Road. Yes. Can you spell the street name for me, please? Dad? No, you're calling us. Ma'am. Hello? Hello? Yes? Ma'am, I need to know your address. Avenue Road, can you please spell it? In Helen Avenue, my dad just went outside screaming. Ma'am, can you spell the street address for me, please? H-E-L-E-N. Someone broke in and I heard shots like pops. I don't know what's happening. I'm tied upstairs.
How chilling was that?
Scary.
Gave me goosies. First responders would find Bick deceased. She had been shot twice, once in the neck and once in the head. Han, the father, had also been shot twice, once in the shoulder and once in the face.
And he was still screaming out, "Help me."
Surprisingly, he survived and would be put into an induced coma once he arrived at the hospital. Jennifer would also go to the same hospital to ensure she had no injuries. She would be cleared and was said to have stayed at her father's bedside for around 3 hours before she was taken to the Markham police station for a witness statement. And boy, oh boy, I do not think officers were expecting what would come next. The officer asked Jennifer to recall her day at any point she remembered. She told the officer that around 9:30 a.m. her mother woke her up. "Bitch, you're 24 and your mum's coming in to wake you up, sorry." And said she'd visit Jennifer's grandfather, who was ill. She stated that she stayed home and had some piano history stuff that she was working on. So she did that on the computer and played a bit of piano. Her mother came home around 3:30, with her dad coming home a bit later than usual. Her father stepped out with her uncle as her mother prepared dinner before she went line dancing, which she did every Monday. They had dinner and then one of Jennifer's friends came over. They watched movies and hung out, with her friend leaving around 9 p.m. Jennifer's mother would return home around 9:30 and she could recall hearing her rummage around downstairs. Jennifer thought nothing of it, as apparently by now she was talking to a friend and watching TV in her room. She then heard her mother call out to her father, and this is when she lowered the volume on the TV and she could hear some unfamiliar voices. She was petrified, so she stayed in her room. First of all, if I heard voices and my parents were downstairs and I was upstairs, I'd be running downstairs to help my parents.
You can bet your ass that I will be down there so quickly.
I'd be like, "What?" With like some kind of weapon. I've got my hockey stick at home. The fucking rundown. What the fuck?
And this is Canada. They probably had some hockey sticks in the
Right?
home.
Where's your ice skates, bitch?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Chop a bitch with them. Hold them by the laces and swing them around your head.
Yeah, right? A male entered her room a short time later with string in his hands. He tied her hands behind her back and said, "I have a gun. If you do as I say, no one will get hurt. Where's the money?" In a voice like that.
Where's the money? So they're assuming that they just have cash money floating around?
They took her around the house looking for cash. She was then dragged down the stairs with a gun behind her head. Now, I watched the footage of this interview, and my lord, for someone who had just been through what she had, she was very composed and did not cry, even though there was a box of tissues in the room just in case. If you recount a home invasion, you'd be a bit more upset than that.
It's a traumatic event. You would have some type of visceral reaction.
She tells the officer that although all the lights were off in the house, she could see 3 men, one wearing a hoodie and another wearing a hoodie but also had a bandana covering his nose and mouth. She was then taken back upstairs and tied to like the fence railing. What do you call those things? Like in the there you go. She recalls her parents asking where their daughter was and why she couldn't come with them. The last word she heard was, "You lied to us," followed by 2 pops. Jennifer's mother screamed, and then a couple more gunshots were heard. Recalling the details upset Jennifer, so the officer pushed the tissues near her as she put her head in her hands. She regained her composure and, strangely enough, no tears.
Wow, shock. So all of the money that they spent on this little bitch doing fucking piano stuff, they could have bought an acting lesson.
Yeah. She then told the officer that she overheard the men saying, "We have to go, it's been too long," and then they ran out the door. Once they were out the door, Jennifer stumbles on her words when recalling to officers and says, "I had my phone in my," then motioned to under her arm, and then she's like, "In my pocket." It was hiding. She almost slipped up what she was about to say.
Well, she did slip up though, didn't she? Because she physically acted out where the phone was.
Yeah, because she kind of like,
in
she
her
did
armpits.
it. And then went to stop and was like, "Oh." So yeah, she had it hidden in her back pocket. Keeping in mind she's tied up as well. By this time, I think the officer was a bit sus on how she was acting and asked her how she could get free, to which she answered that the officers who arrived would cut the string for her. He then asks a few more questions about the night, what she was doing before the intruders came. Her body language and reactions are entirely off for someone who went through what she did. The officer then finishes with a small, do you consent to have your phone records assessed so they can timestamp and see who you were talking to? Immediately, you can see her hands starting to fidget. She answered, I talk to people on the phone, but I don't want them to know what's happening. The officer then goes on to say that, well, the friend she was with and then on the phone with will probably be interviewed, and she's doing the evil hand thing. Self-soothing.
What?
Like that.
She's rubbing her hands, or wringing her hands, I think they call it.
Yeah. And it wasn't subtle. It was very freaking obvious. He then says that the media will be around the case and they have no control over what they say or do, and that his advice is to not read the papers and turn the TV off until they move on to the next thing. So she said to the officers, but I don't want people to know. You didn't think the media would get onto a story of a home invasion and 2 people getting shot?
It's homicide and attempted homicide.
Yeah, in Canada.
And the father miraculously lived.
The officer then leaves the room and we get an excellent performance of someone upset with a lot of hands on her chest, hands on her face, but still no tears. She moves around a bit and then puts her head on the wall. Like literally stands up, places her head on the wall.
That's not normal behavior.
That's not normal. 2 days after the incident, she is called in again for more questioning. The officer tells her to pretend that she hasn't spoken to him about any of the events, and they'll run through it again, maybe catch any slip-ups, a bit of a cross-examination of sorts, and time to catch her out on any lies. Obviously, she didn't know that. She hadn't clued onto that. At the start of the second interview, Jennifer explains that she's very nervous and doesn't want to say the wrong thing because that day was a lot and she's been a bit scattered. Why would you be nervous if you're a victim?
Yeah, I mean, you could, instead of saying nervous, maybe you'd say, I'm frazzled.
The officer asks her to sit back and relax, which she cannot do. Like, you literally, he's like, I just want you to sit back and relax, take a deep breath. And he's like, she's still just sitting forward in her chair like this. And he's like, do as I'm saying. And it's the most awkward.
Is it like, that scene in Breaking Dawn where Bella has to pretend to be human again?
Yeah.
So she has to learn how to pretend to breathe and wear contact lenses and slouch. Is it kind of like that?
Worse than that.
Ooh.
Worse than that. It's really bad. We also start to see her answers are sometimes grief-stricken, and then the next minute they aren't. So whenever she's interrupted by the officer, she loses her grief. So you kind of see her build up into this, and then we did this, and as soon as he asks a question, she's like, yeah, well, we did this and this. And it just like completely...
And that's how you know it's fake. Because Amber Heard was doing the same stuff on trial.
When you're upset, that keeps going, no matter if someone interrupts you.
That's right. Well, again, I mean, it's not her fault. She wasn't taught how to act. So.
That's true. Oh, neither was Amber Heard.
She's an actress.
Jennifer then starts to make some mistakes around the intruders, like who spoke and who hadn't spoken. And you can see her getting increasingly anxious with each slip up and contradiction. Because I think the officer was literally pulling faces like, what? Because I think the day before she was like, the number 2 guy didn't talk at all. And then that day she's like, the number 2 guy said to my mum, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, the first day, the number 1 guy was wearing a hoodie. The second day, he was wearing a vest. And he's like, a vest? And she's like, a hoodie. He was wearing a hoodie. Dumb.
Well, see, that's also the other thing is, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember the lie.
The officer then asks her to demonstrate how she got the phone out of her pocket while tied up. And you could see her going, oh, fuck.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I didn't want to cut you off because I've cut you off so much already that I was like, hold on. First of all, her hands are tied behind her back, right? So how is she maneuvering? And she said that the police were the ones who cut the string or the rope or whatever it was that was around her, but she somehow managed to get the phone out of her pocket and up at her head to call the police to get there to uncut the string. There was already something that wasn't adding up for me there.
Well, Jennifer starts getting very nervous, takes a sip of water, and with the officer assuring her that we just need to see it clinically, be the only time you have to do it, you won't have to do it again. Luckily, she was able to show how she did it. So, dear mung beans, have a look at the footage. The officer hands her another tissue that she puts over her face, not wiping her eyes or nose, and the officer would later testify that it was completely dry. So he hands her a tissue, because she actually did sound like she was starting to, like she was making that noise. She just went like this.
If I wait here long enough. He'll
Yeah.
leave me alone.
Now, the questioning goes towards her past, where the police find out about the pressure she was under and the lies she had told her parents. It's very fascinating to watch because he becomes a therapist of sorts and she opens the floodgates, not thinking about what she is saying. So, possibly giving a motive. And they kind of, in some of the footage I was watching, they were kind of saying this was probably the first time that she was actually able to get all of this off her chest of how she felt throughout. And the officer sounded very caring. He's like, oh, that would have been hard. You're 24, you shouldn't have to deal with that, blah, blah, blah. He also questions how did they get into the house, why they were there, and why the killers left her alive. Her answer to was, I don't know, but he said I cooperated.
You can't say, I don't know, but he said he cooperated. That's why he kept me alive. I'm adding that last part, but you've literally given a reason. Okay.
But they've left a witness because you cooperated.
Yeah, it doesn't add up.
Story checks out. The officer gets super ballsy and says, who's to say this whole thing isn't a lie?
Go. Get it.
That what you're telling me is a lie, because if you are lying, it is the most cold-blooded thing I have ever faced. She makes this weird noise and tries to cry, but she can't. I was like, ooh, hit her with that.
Yeah, also, though, it is a tactic that they use, and she literally just crumbled for it.
Her face was like, ugh. It literally, like, you can see in the footage go, ugh. The interview finished and the police decided to tail Jennifer and see what she got up to. It was said that she showed no emotion at her mother's funeral and shed no tears. She just stared at the ground with her eyes shut during the service. Can someone say
guilty?
Her father, although he had bullet fragments still lodged in his face and other serious injuries, would wake and gain all of his memory of that night and secretly gave a statement to the police on November 16th. His statement contradicted Jennifer, and the most significant piece was that Jennifer was never tied up and was walking around and talking to the men as if she knew them. Given the father's injuries and the brain damage that came along with it as well, police knew they would need a bit more to make a stronger case, because that could kind of just be thrown out. And one thing I did like, so Jennifer was still in contact with her dad, and they were like, just pretend you've got amnesia still. Like, don't talk about the case. Pretend you don't know anything. We don't want her, to be clued on.
And he did, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So obviously the potential brain damage wasn't so severe that he couldn't follow that instruction. Turns out that he was a better actor than she was too.
Yeah. On the 22nd of November, Jennifer was called in for a third interview with a different investigator. They chatted for a bit. She has read her rights and then moved into another room, which they have set up to get a confession. The old one that we've spoken about before, where they set it up to be like, this is to make them under stress and pressure and blah, blah. I fucking love watching that shit. The questioning continues about her past with figure skating, piano lessons, and her partner, whom she was not allowed to see. This investigator is a lot more wham bam, because some of his questions are like, does it make sense that they left you as a witness behind? At this time, the officer is not here to ask questions. He's more here to find out a motive and get all the stuff. He was really just trying to wear Jennifer down. He eventually tells Jen that he is an expert in truth verification and can tell when someone is not straightforward. He then says they can use infrared satellite images to see what was happening in the house, which is obviously not a thing.
Not true, yeah.
Yeah, still, I mean, who knows? Where's the tinfoil hat when you need it? But like, he's just telling her all this shit to be like, we've got all this stuff. We can look at infrared satellite stuff.
Well, aren't you, girl? It's actually better that you come forward about it instead of like lying about it.
He finally tells Jen that he knows that she has not been truthful, and they know that she is used to lying. The officer finally tells Jen that he knows she hasn't been truthful. I mean, given everything that she has told about her history and lying about a lot of things. Like, she told the police that she faked her diploma and faked her university.
So she literally was like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm actually well versed in lying.
Yeah, like, I'm really good at lying, hey. And that she just really needs to tell him what happened that night because they know she was involved. He continuously just pushes her with questions. questions, just tire her out. And eventually she would answer and say, what will happen with me? What will happen to me? That's what she says about 9 times. So she hasn't admitted it yet, but she just goes, what will happen to me?
She's already preparing herself for the consequences.
So I heard this thing where a lot of cases can get thrown out if officers be like, well, this might happen or this might happen, because it's false promises. They've got to kind of avoid the questioning, or, you know, he was just kind of like, well, we just need you to tell us what happened, and then, you know, we'll see what happens. We don't know what's going to happen. Finally, she broke down and said, they were supposed to kill me. Only me. I don't know what happened.
Another lie.
This bitch. I was just like, oh my God. They went along with this new narrative for a bit to try and get her caught in more lies, because they're like, cool, just let's keep going with this story. I'm not even going to get into it, but it's all fake names, and he was meant to do this, and I'm a failure, so wanted to die. The officer was like, it doesn't make sense. And she was like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Ugh.
The whole time they talk, she literally has her head hung and hides her face. The detective leaves the room for a bit, and she just kind of sits there playing with her hair. He returns, says, I'll be placing you under arrest for murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder.
Yep.
This is probably the first time we actually see genuine emotion from her, and she gets upset at the detective and says, you said you were on my side.
He's a detective, love. He has an oath to fulfill for the truth, for the fact finder. Not to you.
You got someone killed. Her trial began on the 14th of March, 2014. And honestly, I don't know why it took so long, like 2010, 2014, because 1 month after the incident, police were able to get a whole conversation between her and
Her boyfriend? Daniel.
talking in detail about the plan.
Scandalo.
They had bought burner phones, which they thought would keep them safe, but nay. The intruders were some people that her partner knew, and there was enough evidence to have them all convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. It did come out in the trial as well that Jennifer had actually left the door unlocked.
Well, of course.
Yeah, because they were like, well, how did they get in? There's no forced entry, like what, they just pushed past your mum? Like what happened? Jennifer is currently 37 years old and will be eligible for parole in 2035. And that, dear mung beans, is the case of Jennifer Pem, the young woman who lied to her parents and was too scared to tell them the truth, so thought it was best to hire hitmen to kill them.
The end.
The end.
That's fucked.
It is fucked.
It's strange because, like, I don't know, like, harder for me to put myself in her situation. I'm not saying that her parents weren't strict on her in there, especially in the Asian culture. There's, like, a lot of responsibility put on you for
Pressure.
achieving, and the pressure is phenomenal. That's why they have a thing referred to as, like, tiger mom.
That's what they called them.
Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't know what that term was, and I was like, what the fuck are they talking
Yeah, it's like,
about?
like a tiger mom, right? So there are lots of expectations, and there's a lot of like weight put on failure, and you can't be a failure. You'll bring dishonor to the family, and there's like a lot of that kind of stuff, and it's fairly commonplace. So I get that it would have been stressful, but I obviously can't put myself in the same situation because again, my mum was just happy as long as I didn't get arrested for anything. Like,
I'm just happy you're here.
yeah, my life
Yeah.
was, you know, relatively easy when it comes to like my parentage. So I can't put myself in the same situation, but I also can't, I don't know, I can't imagine killing someone first of all, but especially someone like my parents.
Well, the biggest things that hit for me were the contradictions around that, because she kept being like, well, I chose this. I chose to stay. If I didn't want to do that, I would have just left. And that, you know, family always comes first.
But you're
What?
you're contradicting yourself.
Then why the fuck are you killing your
In that
family?
you killed them because they come first?
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, you don't want to be a part of that. And the sad thing was as well, she said that Daniel's parents absolutely loved her.
So why not just leave your
Exactly.
family if you're not happy with them? Go to Daniel's. Yeah. And be a part of that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Fucking cooked.
Cooked as cooked can be.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Remind me.
Digression.
Digression and session.
Digression.
Trial.